Under the blazing stage lights, the James S. Brady press briefing room is converted into an arena where tough questions are posed. Karoline Leavitt, the youngest press secretary in the world, is the target. Then, she steps confidently up to the platform. Golden hair, pierced eyes, and a bright pink dress. Leavitt's role extends beyond his role as spokesperson. She is a nightmare for the left-wing media. CNN, The Washington Post, and other woke influencers are aware that attacking Hillary is not an easy task, and they are waiting in line for their chance to do it. Karoline, who was raised in Trump's crucible, is an expert at managing any situation. The left-wing media thinks they can endanger her. They are gravely mistaken to believe that her responses will be hesitant or confusing. Unaware that Karoline Leavitt would silence them, the leftist reporters believe they had the upper hand. Before you start, remember to leave a comment stating where you are seeing the story and to subscribe so you don't miss the latest stories. The briefing room is filled with woke influencers, flaunting their pronouns on X, and whispers of liberal reporters from The Washington Post and CNN. The continuous flickering of camera flashes illuminates the chamber like a modern-day Roman Colosseum, where every question and glance may be a lethal blow. As Karoline Leavitt enters, her vivid pink ensemble engulfs the spectators like an unquenchable fire. As reporters clutch their pencils and flip through their notebooks, getting ready to pose their sharpest questions, the room is silent. Karoline, nevertheless, doesn't care. She holds the stage with her hands, like a warrior ready for battle. She gave a subtle but focused smile. "Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today," she says at the beginning in a powerful yet clear voice that seems like a proclamation. "I'm not just here to answer your questions, but to speak directly to the American people who are tired of the lies and bias from the liberal media." Her remarks swept through the liberal reporters like a cold wind, and they were visibly nervous, their eyes darting uneasily. She pauses, her sharp eyes scanning every face as if ingraining their names in her memory. "Today, we will talk about the truth. Does anyone here want to listen to it?" The supposedly friendly greeting turns into a declaration of war. A gray-suited CNN reporter with spectacles slipping down his nose jumps to attention with a sword-sharp tone. "Miss Leavitt, the Trump administration has a history of spreading misinformation. How will you convince them to believe what you're saying?" The question is like a bullet designed to pierce Leavitt's armor. Even though Leavitt has steel-cold eyes, she tilts her head, and a smile appears. "Let me explain, but that's an excellent question. The American people don't need to be convinced. People are fed up with CNN stories that disparage the president's economic measures while ignoring the 3 million new jobs created." She steps aside and makes a soft hand motion that appears to represent truth. According to a recent poll, only 11% of Americans still trust you. In this instance, it is CNN, not us, who need persuaded. The CNN reporter grips his pen, his cheeks burning, but Leavitt stops him before he can react. "Once, when it turned out that the source was a lefty lobbyist, you reported on an unnamed source who said that President Trump was sabotaging international trade. You hid a small apology on your webpage. Is that how you view the truth?" Every word is like a slash in her loud voice, and the room erupts in muttering. A platinum-haired, sharp-voiced Washington Post reporter won't let Leavitt take control. "If you value the truth, why does the White House back conservative media outlets like Breitbart? That is a sort of information manipulation, isn't it?" The investigation feels like a spear aimed straight at Leavitt's standing. Other liberal reporters nod, their eyes gleaming as if they've found a weakness. With her pink armor-like costume shining, Leavitt places a palm on her hip. Manipulation. Someone is breaking your monopoly. Publications like The Washington Post have dominated the topic for decades. Nonetheless, Americans like independent journalists, podcasters, and those unaffiliated with leftist financiers. She points directly at the reporter, her words ringing like a bell. You might have chosen otherwise, but you chose to be biased. We choose to help the people. A hush falls over the room. A journalist from the Daily Wire in the back row delivers a little cheer as the Washington Post reporter sits down with her lips pursed. Leavitt continues in a calm but forceful voice. I've seen you manipulate the president's statements to make big headlines while working behind the scenes. A well-known media outlet said that he abandoned farmers, but they failed to mention the $12 billion assistance program for them. That is not news, it is propaganda. Returning to the podium, she surveys the crowd. I'm here to tell it how it is, and I'll expose those that don't. Would you like to play gotcha with me? When you're flipped, don't cry, but continue ahead. The liberal reporters were paralyzed by her comments. One raises a hand, but Leavitt ignores it and goes on to a question from a friendlier independent reporter. The briefing room is simmering with tension. Knowing they have been put on the defensive, liberal reporters exchange glances. Leavitt stands there wearing a daring pink dress and an unwavering stare. By converting their bottled-up questions into ashes, she has shown that she is more than just a spokesperson. She is a storm. Karoline Leavitt recently silenced CNN and Washington Post liberal reporters in a battle for the truth. The lefty reporters are stuck, but they haven't given up. They flick over their notes with determined eyes, ready to strike again. Leavitt deftly gestures to a conservative Daily Wire reporter, while a Washington Post reporter raises his hand. When asked a favorable question about Trump's economic objectives, she can mention the administration's achievements, but she knows the liberal reporters are waiting. As she finishes her response from the front row, a sharp voice cuts her off. A Washington Post reporter with short green-dyed hair and a gleaming silver jewelry stands forward. Miss Leavitt, the Trump administration is considering eliminating initiatives like Black History Month. Does this suggest that minority populations are being marginalized? The question is a toxic gust that is forcing Leavitt into a precarious racial corner. She leans in and looks at the reporter as if she can read their intentions. Would you want to talk about paying tribute to Americans? I agree. We should, but not by dividing them into skin tone categories. Her tone is harsh and comforting at the same time. President Trump wants to live in a nation where people are judged on their deeds, not their race. When a great thinker said, "The story of America is the story of black people, white people, or anybody else," division-causing labels are superfluous. We have to be together. Leavitt lifts a hand as the Washington Post writer opens their mouth to reply, a blaze of cameras glinting off her pink suit like armor. Let's be truthful. Programs like Black History Month have been turned into political tools despite their noble goals. Instead of choosing the best applicants, they force companies and organizations to meet diversity standards. Being honorable isn't what that is. Everyone is becoming less valued as a result. The room is filled with murmurs. Some lefty reporters shake their heads when Truth Social viewers scream, "She just ruined the DEI game." A self-reliant influencer with a denim jacket and sunglasses rises to the occasion, speaking with assurance. Miss Leavitt, if DEI services are cut off, what would happen to those with disabilities? Will this administration's federal agencies hire them? The dilemma forces Leavitt to choose between morality and conservative ideals. She smiles not to plate, but to demonstrate control. Imagine yourself on a ship sailing across the ocean. Which do you like more, the captain's experience or their skills? She moves to the edge of the podium. Every glance was conveyed like a torrent by her words. Nobody is being left out. People from all backgrounds with disabilities can take advantage of opportunities. But rather than being dictated by regulations, such possibilities must be decided by ability. That's true fairness. The influencer sits down and covers their unease with sunglasses, but the onslaught is far from done. A white-shirted, red-tied MSNBC reporter approaches and talks quietly, as though making a judgment call. The fact that Ms. Leavitt stresses merit seems commendable. But does it hide harm to marginalized groups, like minorities or women, that have historically been ignored by the system? The question is a bomb fired to discredit Leavitt's position. She stands erect, her pink clothing shining brightly around her. Harm. Now let's talk about real harm. When a hard-working person is denied an opportunity just because they don't fit your DEI priority group, it's unfair to everyone, regardless of identity. She moves widely, and her voice sounds like a drumbeat. Success in the America that President Trump is building will depend on skill rather than identity. 70% of Americans agree, according to a recent study, that they would rather select the best applicants than those that fit a diversity checklist. The room seems to be filling with silence. A Breitbart writer is scribbling furiously as the MSNBC reporter sits down with his hands gripping his tie. Leavitt's eyes are like a beacon as they return to the platform. We don't deny anyone's history or struggles, but the best path ahead is to provide people real opportunities instead of political labels. Her voice echoes as she finishes with a long pause. Karoline Leavitt appears as a jubilant flag when the camera flashes, but the lefty reporters are not going to give up lightly. They sit there, papers rattling, eyes vigilant, determined to find a crack in the 27-year-old spokesperson's steel wall. As a report from The Atlantic spreads on social media, accusing the Trump administration of threatening the global economy by imposing unlawful levies on Canada and Mexico, the atmosphere suddenly gets hot. The liberal reporters catch the action after sensing blood in the water. As if reading an indictment, a CNN reporter in a black blazer jumps up and speaks in a low voice. Ms. Leavitt, a recent Atlantic article claims that President Trump is illegally imposing tariffs on allies. Is this correct? And how can you justify this destabilizing action? The question is meant to cast doubt on Leavitt's credibility. Her eyes pierce the reporter like waves on a ship as she keeps her position. Thank you for your question, but let's start with the Atlantic source. You call it journalism. I call it fiction. Her voice is as sharp as shards of glass, although she talks gently. The claim is based on an unidentified expert who was compensated by a leftist research tank that has a history of being anti-Trump. If you like journalism, I can sell you a bridge in Brooklyn. The CNN reporter stops and tightens his grasp on the microphone as the audience erupts, and a few conservative journalists giggle. Go down the stairs to the edge of the podium, her pink attire gleaming in the commotion. To be clear, the tariffs imposed by President Trump do not harm American workers. When cheap goods from Mexico and Canada take over our marketplaces, who loses? Ohio laborers, Iowa farmers. A recent study found that 500,000 manufacturing jobs were saved by tariffs. That's the truth. The Atlantic conveniently ignores. She pauses, scanning the room as though someone would confront her. A pleasant-sounding New York Times writer wearing a wool jacket stands up to try to make things better. Ms. Leavitt, tariffs may increase the cost of goods for American consumers. How can you call it protecting them when they pay for it? She tilts her head, her smile flitting through the clouds like sunlight. You care about your customers. I concur, however. Ask them whether they would rather pay a few dollars more for a product or end up losing their job because of too many imported goods. She uses broad gestures during her speaking, which resembles a wave crashing into the coast. Tariffs are not intended to hurt Americans. They enforce fair play among other nations. When China manipulates the price of steel, we don't do nothing. We do something. And Americans from Texas to Michigan are feeling the impacts. Steady work and factories that are being revived. With dissatisfied eyes, the New York Times reporter sits down and fidgets with a pen. But the attack goes on. An MSNBC reporter with steely voice and gray hair stands forward. Miss Leavitt. The Atlantic article discusses more than just tariffs. It has to do with this administration's lack of transparency. Why hasn't the White House disclosed its tariff plans to avoid misunderstandings? The question is an arrow aimed at the Trump administration's credibility. Let it be erect transparency. We are forthright and honest with the American people, unlike media outlets who are ready to depict a catastrophe. She points to the reporter, her speech like an electric wire. The Atlantic does not seek truth. Their goal is to garner media attention. If they wish to be open, let them name their experts or explain why they ignored a study that found tariffs raised American manufacturing's revenue by 15%. We have nothing to hide. Your game just doesn't interest us. Axios reporters are usually objective, nod a little, and write quickly. The MSNBC reporter sits down, eyes tired, hands raking their hair. Leavitt returns to the platform, her gaze blowing doubt like a wind. We don't have to go over every step with the American people. They witness industries restarting and jobs being restored. That's what real openness is. Not words, but results. The atmosphere in the briefing room became more heated and combative, but the leftist reporters refused to let up, even though they were consistently outwitted. Stepping forward is a reporter for the New York Times, with a smooth voice and a bright blue shirt. Miss Leavitt, the Trump administration is forcing federal employees to go back to work full-time. Does this undo the progress done on work-life balance, considering that many individuals have gotten used to working remotely? Karoline stands with pride. Like glistening dew, her eyes were sharp and clear. Ask Americans if they would rather see government employees working efficiently or sipping coffee at home during business hours. The term work-life balance sounds fine. Her voice calms worries like a blast of cool water. Taxpayers pay for those stunning government buildings in Washington. They are entitled to see employees show up, work hard, and get results. She pauses to think about what she just said. As the camera flashes, her pink clothing shines like a halo. The New York Times reporter furrows their brow, trying to cut him off, but Leavitt continues. She moved her hand in a gentle arc. A recent study found that office productivity is 25% higher than remote employment. When employees interact face-to-face, issues are handled and ideas are produced. It's how we serve the public instead of Zoom displays. The room is buzzing with activity. The truth. A few lefty reporters scribble rapidly, and social explodes. She's right. Don't be lazy any longer. An NBC reporter, dressed in a black suit, stands up and speaks in a tone as solemn as a somber tale. Miss Leavitt, this approach may lead to the loss of seasoned professionals like doctors and scientists who are used to flexible work schedules. Do you think that's worth it? The question is like a poisoned mist ejected, forcing Leavitt to choose between efficiency and expertise. When she smiles, her eyes like a bird flying across the sky. Workers are gone. Let's be truthful. Doctors at hospitals and engineers on building projects don't work from their couches. Why is the government employee exemption justified? Her speech is a bridge of reason. No one will be fired by us. We want the best to stay, but they have to come. If a bright scientist is unable to come to work, I question how committed they are to their work. The lighting paints her like a picture. The NBC reporter sits down and touches their chin with pity. But the battle is far from over. An independent reporter stands up, wearing a red sweater and speaking passionately. Miss Leavitt, this rule could hurt women and those who rely on working remotely to manage their life since they have family obligations. Do you think it's fair? The frantic query is intended to get her to falter, and Leavitt leans forward to answer it. I'm a mother, she declares. Family responsibilities are important, but being fair doesn't mean letting certain individuals do half the work while others do the rest. Her voice is like a river, calm yet powerful. Anyone may shine when given real job opportunities, whether they be women, men, or others. This strategy is not anti-family, rather, it is anti-inefficiency. In order for their money to be used effectively, 65% of Americans, according to a study, want government employees to work for them. People are paying attention to them. Leavitt returns to the podium with a gleam in her eyes. We don't prescribe for pleasure. We do it because of the hard-working Americans who are unable to work remotely. They deserve a dedicated administration. Like a manifesto, her words rocked the room. She is looking straight at the audience and speaking in a quiet yet powerful voice. Imagine a federal employee at home taking their time answering emails as locals wait in line for services. That's not progress. What's taking place is regression. For the sake of the people, we choose to move forward. The room falls silent, as if all the noise has been smothered. Reporters now freeze instead of sitting upright with mics and notes in hand. No one offers assistance. No one raises their voice. Only the averted eyes remain. Some pens tapping anxiously on desks to mask their discomfort. An MSNBC reporter tilts their head as they are ready to speak, but they decide against it. The Washington Post reporter stares at a blank page, unsure of what to write. Even the well-known social media influencer who was awoken doesn't live stream at the moment, since they never expected to be so outplayed. Karoline stays still and surveys the space. There's only the calm of someone who knows they've won, without any smug grin or boasting. Not with attacks, but with unquestionable logic. At the end of the briefing, Karoline Leavitt leaves the press room, her pink attire still gleaming like a gem, leaving behind a burning battlefield. Liberal reporters found themselves enmeshed in the struggle over office work restrictions. But the conflict doesn't end in the briefing room. In an attempt to overshadow Leavitt, the leftist reporters keep fighting despite their repeated setbacks, turning the spotlight to TV programs and social media. That morning, Leavitt appeared on Good Morning America. The studio lights projected her like a colorful image. The host, wearing a blue jacket and a professional smile, welcomed everyone in a direct but courteous manner. Miss Leavitt, the Trump administration wants federal employees to return to their jobs. Many, however, contend that this is rigid and might lead to stress for workers. How would you defend it? Inquiry was a spider's web designed to trap Leavitt in an insensitive image. She straightened her back. The American people do not desire an authoritarian government. They are searching for an effective one. When you pay for the upkeep of government facilities, you expect federal personnel to fix problems rather than respond to emails while they're in bed. Her voice was melodious, kind, yet really persuasive. 62% of Americans support having government employees in the workplace, citing a recent research. We're not imposing our will. We are meeting people's expectations. She paused. The studio lights draw attention to her rebellious pink dress. The presenter arched an eyebrow, asking further questions. But, Miss Leavitt, since they need flexibility, this tactic can drive out competent personnel, such scientists or specialists. Is quality being sacrificed for discipline by the government? The question was placed as a thorn to induce Leavitt to fail, forcing her to choose between competence and efficiency. She leaned forward, her eyes catching the air like a sail. Now let's discuss real quality. Scientists create discoveries in the lab. They risk missing creative moments when they work remotely. We are not trading. We're raising the bar. Her voice was like a stream, carrying all the logical threads. Federal employees strive to serve the public, not to enjoy a life of luxury. If they are unable to deliver, they might not be a good fit for our goal. The studio audience murmured quietly, with some nodding, while the MC, obviously anxious, fumbled with their tie. But the assault went on. In a video clip from The View, Joy Behar derisively called Leavitt a spokesperson who just serves to improve Trump's image. The host turned to Leavitt and looked at him attentively. "How do you respond, Miss Leavitt, to people who claim that you were chosen for your attractiveness rather than your ability?" Leavitt smiled, her gaze piercing the sky like the moon. "Miss Behar is very misinformed if she thinks that my looks helps me dissect the gotcha questions of the leftist media, but I'm not here to answer personal attacks." Her words came in a gentle yet sharp wave. "Serving the American people is my life's work as a mother. If Miss Behar wants to talk about competency, look at how I utilize your criticisms as a chance to tell the truth." The studio audience applauded while the host paused, unsure of what to do. After Karoline Leavitt's vehement remarks in the James S. Brady press briefing room and on Good Morning America, she did more than just silence liberal reporters from CNN, The New York Times, and MSNBC. She altered the media's operations. Her pink attire shone like a banner of victory in the audience's recollections. Leavitt's impact went beyond social media retorts. The way Americans viewed the media changed while she was training for the next conflict in her small apartment in Washington. At work, Leavitt sat in front of her laptop. The light from the screen lit her face, which was now contemplative yet resolute, like a tree standing fast against the storm. After reviewing posts on social media, Karoline held the media accountable. Another from Truth Social. "She made me trust the White House again." These remarks were like cobblestones, paving the way for the legacy she was building. She avoided questions regarding the facts, DEI tariffs, and office job. She forced major media outlets, such as CNN and The Washington Post, to reevaluate their reporting. After Leavitt's briefings, CNN's viewership dropped by 18% as viewers turned to alternative sources, including podcasters and conservative journalists, according to a recent unsupported assertion. When she opened her laptop to check her emails, she saw a letter from a college student. "Leavitt, your antagonism to the media inspires me to seek a career in journalism." Leavitt's eyes gleamed as she smiled. She had inspired a new generation to reject biased news and seek the truth. It wasn't only Trump she was fighting for. She battled to guarantee that people in America could obtain accurate information. At every briefing, she left a legacy of a more accessible government and an open media. She prepared for the press conference that was coming up. Her look was like a wind giving conviction, knowing that every sentence was a brick in the future's creation. Social media was exploding with thousands of posts. "Karoline has the key to the future of politics." One person said, "She doesn't just talk, she acts." "A mother, a warrior, our voice," another commenter said. Truth Social was inundated with compliments after a well-received post. "She has changed the way we think about the White House." While liberal reporters tried to respond on social media, they found that the audience was uninterested. Their cries were drowned out by the flood of support for Leavitt. Leavitt's triumph was not limited to liberal journalists. She made the briefing room a place where the truth was valued and Americans felt heard. She was more than just a press secretary. For those who believed in the American dream, she was a mother, a warrior, and a beacon of hope. J.D. Vance and other Trump fans praised her on Truth Social. "Karoline is the key to the future of our movement. She is motion, and politics is motion," said Craig Shirley, a well-known online person. A new chapter in American political history is being written by Karoline Leavitt, one in which the younger generation is not only inheriting, but also taking the lead, altering the course of events, and shaping the future. Leavitt's tenacity, humor, and devotion serve as excellent examples of this. A more open media, a government that is more approachable by the public, and young people who are inspired to seek the truth. She is a ray of hope that brightens America's path, not just a spokesperson. The Karoline Leavitt story, where left-wing journalists try to surround Karoline Leavitt's significant mistake, is a profound reflection of the challenges in modern American society, where the gap between conservative and liberal principles and mistrust of the media impact how people express and defend their beliefs. Wearing a pink suit and a piercing stare, Leavitt not only challenged lefty reporters from The Washington Post and CNN, but also stayed unwavering in the face of public criticism. She emphasized truth and responsibility by using Joy Behar's personal insults and posing probing questions about DEI and tariffs. She prioritized selecting the best pilot based on merit rather than racial color, for instance, and safeguarded American workers through tariffs. A balance between mother and warrior is depicted in the photo of her cradling her infant son, Nico's cradle, and receiving support from Kay McKinney in her personal life. This is typical of the situation for many Americans who are attempting to balance work and family obligations in the face of social pressures. Its lessons are relevant to everyday living in America. Remain calm under pressure and take the opportunity to reinforce your values. In a divided world, when criticism like that expressed by Suzanne Lambert is amplified by social media and other platforms, follow Leavitt's example and react with confidence and logic instead of emotion. Whether you are facing unpleasant comments or pressure at work, take a cue from her and focus on the bigger picture of helping others, speaking out for what's right, and gaining support from friends and family. She relied on Nicholas and McKinnon. Lastly, just as Leavitt turned the briefing room into a forum for truth, use your voice to tenaciously, morally, and religiously push for change in your family, business, or society. Click the subscribe button to follow Karoline Leavitt's adventure with us. Thank you for taking part, and we hope to see you in the next video. Don't forget to share her genuine flame.